Hello everyone, this is Kops Office Hours. It is Friday, March 30th. As I'm sure people know, Kubernetes 1.10 was released the other day. So we will be thinking about the future, I think, a little bit in terms of our release schedule. And we have a bunch of things on the agenda in terms of 1.9, 1.10, and future releases. So if anyone wants to add anything to the agenda, please do so. The link is in the calendar invite. And otherwise, shall we jump into it? So I put two things on the agenda, which I think are good things to start with in terms of setting the scene. One of which is the proposed release schedule. So we talked in the past, I guess, 2 meetings about how we wanted to keep the idea that a Kops release means that the whole ecosystem we believe to be stable. But we want to also do alpha and beta releases earlier so that people that want to use like Kubernetes 1.10 today, for example, have a Kops 1.10 release that they can use that we believe will work, we'll have the correct Docker version and things like that. And so what that, I sort of drew up a calendar of what that means in practice, I think, for the next 2 months of releases. So what I wrote down is that I think we're ready to do 1.0 beta 1. We have a couple of issues, but they look like they're at the right level to sort of do the alpha to beta transition, I think. We can talk about that more later. But so if we do beta 1 this weekend, and ideally the release next weekend, but that could get punted by a week if we find more stuff. So that would be 1.0 beta 1 this weekend, 1.0 release next weekend, which is April 7th-ish. And then the idea would be we would do the 1.10 alpha 1 the minute we release 1.90. So that would also be next weekend. And we would keep our actual release target date, which is a very, flexible date because it's ready when it's ready. It's ready when 1.10 is stable and all the networking providers are stable and everything else. So, but that will ideally be the end of the month, so a month after release, so the end of April. I put April 28th. And then when we do that, we will also do the 1.11 alpha 1 so that train starts rolling. And then we're sort of on a much nicer schedule. That's obviously a hectic month, but then we're sort of on a more normal schedule where we try to do the 1.11 Kops 1.11 beta 1 when Kubernetes 1.11 comes out. We'll aim to do the Kops 1.11 release about a month after that. And when we do the Kops 1.11 release, we'll do the Kops 1.12 alpha 1 at the same time. And the other nice thing is this sort of means that it's pretty predictable, and it also means that sort of we only have one open-ish branch at a time, hopefully. So obviously we'll backport or cherry pick things that need to go, but we don't have 8 open branches at once for features.
So how are we going to cherry pick?
So when we do, so let's jump.
Let me frame something, or let me know if it's a good time to ask that question. And secondly, I know that they're I know they are changing the way cherry pick works in Kubernetes as well. I know that's going to happen.
Okay, I mean, we should obviously try to synchronize with Kubernetes if they have a better idea. I don't know what their new plan is.
So we're going to go to a full model of cherry picking into the release branch?
I don't know that we need that. I think we can probably, we'll see. I think that we can probably, so one of the differences is that we believe that you should be running it should be safe to run the latest Kops against any version of Kubernetes or any prior version of Kubernetes. And so there's no real reason right now. So right now Kops 1.8, whatever it is released. So there's no real reason to be running Kops 1.6, even if you're running Kubernetes 1.6. You probably should, in fact, you should not be. You should be running Kops 1.8.
Bad bug.
What?
You should not be running Kops 1.6.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So we have less of a need to cherry pick for that reason, and more of a need to. So once we open the 1.12 alpha branch, we'll have another. We'll still want to put things onto the 1.11 release that need to go into a release. And so those will need to be cherry picked, but hopefully they will be they won't be features, and hopefully they will be smaller things. So I don't know if we need as much cherry picking. So we might be able to get away with a lighter weight process, like simply a label.
Other folks that are on the call, please don't sit here quietly, because this is super important. We need your opinion, gentlemen. And I wish maybe there is on the phone.
My question really is, Justin, are you going to be okay with this release? Because you're normally the one doing the releases, and a whole month of April, but you doing 4 releases might be a little hectic for you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the releases are fine in and of themselves. The hard bit is doing the actual release notes, like synthesizing like release notes that are sort of human readable. And the hard bit is knowing when to do the actual release. So like a new alpha release or a new beta release is mostly mechanical. Like there's a judgment call when we say alpha beta, but other than that, like, you know, once we have enough to justify another alpha, then we put it out, and it's, you know, it's less than an hour's work for me. So yeah, thank you for that.
So you've got the like binary release process pretty much automated, right?
Yeah, and I'd love to get
push a button and it works.
More or less. I'd love to get it fully automated, but there's some issues. Well, actually, yeah, there's the issue. So the Google Cloud build seems like it's actually really might solve a lot of our issues there, but our build process is currently probably too convoluted to work in Google Cloud build. So maybe post Basil, but we'll see. So
I was going to ask. So the upcoming release, the 1.9.0, and then cutting the 1.10 Alpha 1, same day. Do you expect there to be differences? Do you plan to merge some stuff in at that point, or are they essentially going to be the same code?
They're going to start off as the same code.
Okay. And
then, yes, they will deviate rapidly. So in practice, I don't know whether I can actually do it, but I would probably release 1.10 Alpha 1 from mass. Oh, actually, that's true. So technically, I would release 1.10 Alpha 1 from the master branch or from a fork of it. So once we do beta 1, we tend to be more judicious about putting in things. So in theory, they could deviate. I don't think in practice they'll deviate. I think we'll see what happens on the discussion of the PRs later on, but I prefer to avoid merging like big things in.
See, that goes back to the question I had about cherry picking. Maybe does everybody know what I mean by that? Like, okay. So does everybody want to have a cherry pick type methodology where we're choosing what to move into the release branch? Because what we've done in the past is everything goes basically into the release branch. If it's been merged, we just do everything back into the release, redo the release branch or update the release branch from master. And that's what's going into the beta. And beta is really only bugs that Justin will cherry pick in and then cut a full GA.
Right.
So none of this is in writing. That's part of the problem.
But yeah, so once we cut the beta or a GA release, we try to cherry pick from then on only bug fixes. Yeah. And there might be an exception to that, but we try not to do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can try it and see how it goes. And
I think it would be good just to get a couple sentences down on an issue, on that this is what our release process is going to look like.
Well, I mean, I think if we're generally agreed with this as a notion, that we'll write it up in a doc, right, in the repo.
Sure. Somebody wants to take that would be awesome. And what I'm hearing from you, Justin, is you need help with release notes over the next month.
I'll just do it. I mean, anyone is very welcome to do it. That is the slowest bit of doing the release.
I would love to help you, Justin, if that's helpful.
Okay, thank you. That would be cool. I can definitely. I'll put up.
Justin needs to delegate. So, Mike, please help him.
All right,
I will. We can chat offline about this.
I love you, Justin, but you do too much.
We could build the release notes as features are merged in rather than waiting till the very end.
Well, we have the bot we could utilize from Kubernetes, right?
So
but I don't know how that quite works because they have a special process for building the release notes.
So the Kubernetes release notes are also a similar.
Kludge.
Like it's not like they're easy either. We have some script stuff that will from the commit history will generate unabridged like each commit, like who wrote it, that sort of thing. So the links, and then it's basically just like trying to organize it more thematically and trying to make it so that the most important things that are sort of like action required type things are high, and like collapsing a lot of the, like I tend to do like docs and typos and comment type fixes and do a general thanks with a list of everyone at the end, rather than, you know, most people installing just want to see that someone who did it, but don't care about, you know, who wrote each particular one. It's not really relevant to someone doing an upgrade.
Do we have a policy on how far back in Kubernetes versions Kops supports, and will that change with this new release schedule?
So we do not have a policy. Well, we basically, so far we support every Kops version from when we released Kops, which is I think around, I mean, it's going to be like 1.4.
I think we're back to 1.4.
Yeah.
What's deprecated on the Kubernetes tree? What are they not maintaining?
I think technically 1.7 is deprecated, but I don't know. I'm not going to deprecate. Kops needs to support 1.7.
You have 1.5 users still. I know that.
1.5 is probably going a little bit further back than I want, but I mean, I think that the LTS discussion is definitely worth having. We don't have, it doesn't really hurt us in Kops as far as I can tell. I don't know if other people disagree with that, supporting the older version.
If they're not maintaining the Kubernetes branch, it's a risk that we still support the install. Because what's going to happen is somebody's going to go, okay, well, Kops can install it, and then they report a bug on it, and the Kubernetes community says, no, it's not usable anymore. We should at least warn on it, right?
One thing we could do.
Peter, since you're interested in it, can I volunteer you to start a PR on it?
We actually have a mechanism which you can probably use, which is the channels, like the channels alpha and channel stable. It can recommend you an upgrade of Kops. It can recommend you an upgrade of Kubernetes. And I think it can strongly upgrade. I think it can even refuse to run unless you pass an environment variable. So that's what we do if we find a security flaw in a version of Kops. Like, so the older versions of Kops don't install like the latest kubedns fixes. And so I think we require you to use a certain version of Kops now. And we can use that sort of mechanism. And it's not really required because you can just pass an envar to get around it. That feels like a fair, like, hey, you really don't want to be installing Kubernetes 1.4 today without saying, yes, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I signed this release.
Cool. Yeah, so that's the release.
Okay. By the way, is anybody else having difficulty hearing Justin? Yeah, barely hear you, bud.
I will speak towards the camera and stuff. So that's the release schedule. I will do a document if people don't disagree, and we can sort of see how it goes, I guess.
I think it's great.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, it means that like come 1.11, we'll have basically a released, we'll have a beta 1 at the same time as Kubernetes is released. And we'll have an alpha for 1.12, the next version of Kubernetes, during the 1.12 release process.
The only caveat I'd ask for, Justin, is that we put in there very cleanly that these are proposed dates. If there are any issues that we have any instability, we are going to have them slip. So that's the only thing, because people are going to be like, oh, we have dates, where's your release? So I just want to make sure there's a big old disclaimer in there that we care about stability rather than the dates. But okay. It's awesome, by the way. Thank you. This is great. And
then the other topic for discussion, I think, is just what we want to put into the next few Kops releases. So there's obviously the obvious, which is support for the latest Kubernetes. But the other ones that sort of I'm thinking about and our sort of the etcd manager, getting the etcd management modularized and sort of reusable outside of Kops. So it's less of a proprietary thing. And so the etcd manager that I'm working on also supports etcd upgrades, which I think is big on everyone's mind. A similar sort of functionality for add-on management. I feel like we're now in a place where there's enough or some consensus around add-on management that we can actually sort of start to make that use more standards or use the emerging standards. And then the machines API, which is sort of part of the cluster API, seems to be making a lot of progress and really has the potential to let both Kops work better with Kops clusters work better with, for example, the autoscaler, but also support other clouds more easily and things like that. And bare metal as well. So I think those are the things that I'm sort of most working on at the moment, or most thinking about at the moment.
What about the Kops server?
Yep, and Kops server is also, yeah, I should put that in there. It actually comes a little bit under the machines API, but yeah, I think that is a big one. I think that would be good too.
Bare metal.
Definitely part of the machines API.
And actually, I think we have a couple other clouds that are coming in. We should check with them. But OpenStack is still getting worked on. We've got another gentleman that wanted to discuss Alibaba or Ali Cloud.
Very cool.
So we might want to just add other cloud providers under there. Also, the 2 never-ending PRs that 3 people are highly involved in on this call. One of them, which is waiting on Justin, our wonderful IAM profile PR, and our also wonderful security group PR, because I have had sidebar requests for both of those from 2 different groups besides who's on this call. Sorry, Justin.
Yes,
I know they're horrible, but
we have to. So what is the security group use case?
So it is where a user is not able to, or actually, Rodrigo, why do you need this PR at Pinterest?
So I have a security group and they don't let me create security groups or IAM roles. They will give them to me and say, use these. So currently I do something really, really ugly with Kops. I literally spit out a Terraform template and then I have something that automatically modifies that for me so that I can actually use Kops and what it generates. So Lifecycle would just let me stop using Terraform as a shim.
So I guess so 3 questions, and if I can remember them all as we go. Like, one option might be to generate the security stuff, the security group for Terraform, and ask your security group team to apply that Terraform.
So even that currently, so just for the IAM roles, for example, all the IAM roles that Kops generates, or the IAM roles that Kops generates, I don't want all my users to have those permissions. Like, for example, I don't want my users to even be able to create ELBs with Kubernetes. So I don't give them those permissions at all. I have a ingress controller that's set up and I expect them to use that. And one of the reasons is because we have over 600 engineers, and if I give them the ability to generate ELBs, someone's going to generate a public ingress ELB, and we're going to have a security breach.
So Justin, we've been around and around and around with both the API and the implementation. You know, I know it would be awesome if we had other options, but from my perspective, you know, we need to either have a separate release for these, or, you know, we need the PRs in as we've worked on them. You know, we need the API supported as we've agreed to this API, Justin, where it's on the instance group, there's a security group or a list of security groups. On the instance group, there's an IAM profile. So you signed off on the API.
What we have to do, though, is be very careful. We don't we can't share security groups across clusters.
Well, the thing is that, like, literally in the notes, release notes, we should say, don't use this feature. And I know it's horrible, but at times you've got.
Well, can we talk?
From my perspective, there's enough users asking for this that there is a need for it, Justin.
But can we talk more about the, like, would it be possible to create the security group with a tag, with the correct tag, for example?
What do you mean?
Well, if you create the security group with the correct tag, then Kops will just pick it up.
But then it has to be named correctly, and it has to have the correct security group roles on it. But we've discussed this, Justin, dude. We've gone over this and beat this to death. I don't understand why. Like, you agreed, and we can take this offline. But you agreed to the API. But why? What is causing us not to be able to merge these?
I still don't understand the use case, and I still don't understand why we can't use a.
Because enterprises don't allow this. Enterprises don't allow Kops users to touch IAM profiles and security groups at times.
Right, which is why we did all this phases.
It's a procedural and security thing.
Right, but
there's no rhyme or reason.
We have
they
all the phases
be like this,
work,
but
right?
Pinterest is.
Well, let's talk about what I want to hear from is, like, what can we, like, is there a compromise which doesn't risk users sharing security groups, which is not supported by Kubernetes in the ELB case?
But how nodes could have the same security groups? This isn't security groups that are being provisioned, or like, this isn't Kubernetes security groups. This is Kops security groups only. You could theoretically share the same security group for nodes. Why do we care?
Because the Kubernetes, if you're doing ELB management, Kubernetes will manage the security group on the node.
Not those security groups. This is not Kubernetes cloud controller security groups. Has nothing to do with that, right?
What security groups is it?
It's security groups for the nodes, the masters, and our API ELB, and bastions when it's implemented.
So yeah, I mean, I have I don't think there's a problem with the API ELB. I think the node security group, the security group on the node, I'm presuming there's only one, right? You can, or I think we already had this ability to do additional ones. So
yep.
On the node, that security group is modified when you create a load balancer.
I actually don't let those security groups be modified because I can't have permissions. And I also have multiple clusters that are sharing a security group, because the intention is to actually put a federation in front of those clusters, because we're going to quickly outgrow just a single cluster. Like, there's just no way we're going to be able to keep one. And I need those to communicate between each other as well.
So I got your edge case, I understand. So we can heavily document that. But,
Well, but I mean, so, like, I guess the question is, what if we were to, can we persuade the security team to just tag the security group?
No. Because it would be reused. We'd have to have the same names on this. Like, we can't do it by ID. That's the challenge. And not only that, or let me back up here. If we tag the security group,
Kops would try to put the security group into the state that Kops wants it to be in, which may not.
We can skip the roles. We can skip the security group roles with the override flag. So we can tell Kops not to do any security group roles, Philip. So that we already got fixed. But if we tag it correctly, Kops is going to pick it up. And if we tag it with shared, it's not going to delete it.
Right.
But how does it pick it up? Is it the name?
We can tweak how that works. I think currently it uses the name, but I think we should move to, so on the route table, we just move to recognizing it via the shared tag and a role.
we're changing the way we've implemented it again. Just by the way.
Implemented what again?
Well, we've already agreed on. You already agreed on an. You know, I'm sorry, I'm beating this to death. I'm not trying to be an asshole, dude. Sorry to say that online recorded, but we already agreed to an API. Now we're changing our approach again. You know, Phil, like I've redone the IAM profile PR 3 times. Philip's done it once. You know, it's already tested, dude.
Let's talk about the IAM profile one. That's even more interesting.
Tricky.
Well, that one though we don't have any concerns about sharing.
Okay.
Or
That's good.
There's no like requirement. Like Kubernetes doesn't manage it, right? So it doesn't matter in that regard.
And by the way, just to let you know, in most of these cases where Kubernetes won't be able to manage the security group on the nodes, they won't, like a lot of these places won't use ELBs. They'll use ingress. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But yes, let's talk IAM.
Yeah. So what do people want to do in terms of you want to create a single IAM profile and share it across your clusters?
Yes, that is exactly what we're doing. I have different IAM profiles that I created somewhat back based on what Kops does, or had security do it anyways, but with a bunch of the actual
restrictions, like the tag
restrictions. Like no ELB creation, no modifying routes. Like you can't change security groups because I can't change security groups. So why would I give Kubernetes permissions to do that? So,
and again, the user does not have permission. The Kops user, so the user that Kops is running as does not have permission to create a new IAM profile, roles, you know, all those God rights within a VPC.
Right, and so this is what Phases is supposed to do, right? Phases is supposed to split out the creation of a cluster into separate sets that are likely to correspond to the different groups, so that the security team can apply the IAM profile.
They're not interested. They already have their own tooling to generate this stuff. They already have their own stuff.
Yeah, like I don't want to generate security groups outside of the thing that already generates security groups for us. We have Terraform profiles that manage all the security groups, and having something external that's generating these is just not manageable. Having IAM profiles that are generated a different way is not manageable.
Okay.
And again, I don't want to use the COP security IAM profiles because they're too permissive, and I just can't apply them.
Yeah. Also, the naming. They even goes to the naming. Enterprises and users have their own naming convention, often uses the paths, the full paths for IAM profiles, which is really complex.
And there's no tags for profiles, so you can't change the name and just search by tags.
Right. I think profiles, like using a different profile is, I think, allowed. I think it's uncontroversial. I think the only thing that we need to do is, so by default, I'd like it to keep validating. And I think, to Rodrigo, you'd have to specify a lifecycle that turns off validation, because ideally we'd be able to have enough granularity in the API to express your more restricted permissions. In practice, I suspect that's not going to happen. So we need to have the ability to just, you would have to specify whatever the life cycle is. I think validate and warn is an option. So it would say, hey, the profile is different, but it would not be an error. It would just be a warning.
You should look at the PR, Justin, that Peter has, because everything that you're asking for is in that PR. It's tested with an integration test. We're doing the overrides correctly. Rodrigo, did you have a chance to test that PR?
Yeah, I tested both of them. I tested the security group one and I tested the IAM role one. Yeah, and then like Justin said, I just skipped them, and I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah.
You skip?
I just skipped the security group creation with the life cycles, and I skipped the IAM role creation with the life cycles as well, because I already have those. I don't want Kops to manage those for me, right? The validation shouldn't be done by Kops. It's done by my security team.
Yeah, I mean, yes. The
Well,
reason.
cops should warn, right? Cops should warn or do a validation that's warned, and maybe we have the wrong validation, but if the IAM PR is a less contentious one, once we get 1.9 out, Justin, if you could review that PR,
Sure.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we need to get 1.9 out, but then yes, I think we just need to get 1.9 into beta, and then we can start on this sort of stuff. I think, yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know, the reason we want to warn is so that if a user comes along and has a problem, that we're able to get the output, and it sort of self-reports that, oh, you know, you've overridden the policy, and the policy you're using is wrong, or is like different from what we expect.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like just a warning, just sort of a diagnostics that like this is, if you're having permissions errors, then like the IAM policy is, and the IAM policy is different. It's a pretty obvious, like, you know, that's probably where the problem lies.
At this point, you're on your own. So
well, not on your own, but like, I mean, I think it's like, it's like, I've certainly helped people in the past, and it's taken, you know, a day to get to the point of narrowing it down to like the DHCP options, right? And that's why we validate everything. Although, ironically enough, we don't validate DHCP options, but in the shared case. But yes, like getting there so that we're able to like see the problem fast, and yeah, like tell people, hey, that, you know, sharing security groups across clusters is going to, and using ELBs is going to give you a bad time, for example, or whatever it is.
Hey, Justin, so we've got, I want to stop beating this dead horse because we got a lot more on the agenda, and I have a hard stop at 11. I want to jump down to Shane.
Hello.
Good with, actually, we've got the PR. What do you want to talk about the PR, Justin?
Well, we skipped 404.1, which is core DNS and Kops as an add-on. That to me seems like a great thing that we should get in ASAP.
Well, are we waiting on Raj Sandeep?
I don't think so. I don't know. Let me see. What did
I think this can go into 110, right?
Oh, there was some debate about feature flagging versus not. Let's see. Yeah, this can go into this should go into 110 as soon as we can. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm marking it as 110.
Yes, please.
Already did. Making a note on the PR. We'll go into 1.1. Everybody's familiar with CoreOS on the call? Yes, no?
Core DNS.
Core DNS. So KubeDNS is being replaced by Core DNS is the roadmap-ish. Load testing has shown that Core DNS is pretty awesome. So, and that's it's a CNCF project.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of part of the general like support for the latest Kubernetes thing. But yes, we should get that in. Shane said add Ali Cloud support for Kops issue 4127. I think yes, let's get that into 110. I think, is there any question about how to, should we do, I don't know, so the VFS support, I actually was debating merging that into 1.9, but I refrained. I was a good boy and waited. So yes.
So can we go into 110?
Yes. Do you want this in one? Would it be helpful to you to have just the VFS stuff in 1.9?
Mm-hmm. And the other stuff in the 110. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great to get.
Shane, it's Shane, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The 110 release is going to be very fast, by the way.
Yes, next month?
Incredibly fast. Like, if you look at the meeting notes, we've got a proposed schedule on it. So don't feel bad if you go into 111 is kind of my point, because you're not going to be waiting very long. I don't know if you're going to get the work done by the end of 110.
Actually, we have already implemented this Kops in Alibaba, and we just want to make a merge at one time. So
that's great.
In order. Yes.
So do you already have support in?
Yes, we already have all the commits in our all repo, and we haven't make any PRs to you. Yes.
Justin, do you want a big PR to review, or do you want them to chunk it up?
It's additive, so you can send one big PR. But how about this? How about I review the VFS stuff and so 40719, and we'll merge it when we cut 19 beta 1. So the minute we open the 110 branch, which I think we said we're aiming for about a week. But if you want to also send the other PR, I'm happy to review that as well in like a mega PR. But generally, if it's an additive, so because it's a different cloud, it won't affect. Well, it shouldn't affect users. So it's
shouldn't break your CI.
Sorry.
I mean, it shouldn't break your CI.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I have one question.
Sorry? Bring it up. Do you have? You're not Ali Cloud, right?
I'm in Ali Cloud. Yes.
Or do you work for Ali Cloud?
Yes, I'm an employer. Yeah.
So, how would you like to have end-to-end testing for Ali Cloud?
Yeah, I was curious about.
I like that reaction.
How do you do CI test, integration test for Ali Cloud? Because we don't have resources for you.
Take it as an action item, Shane. Once you get it in, once we get support, ping me, and I can walk you through adding an end-to-end test for Ali Cloud, where like once a day, it's going to run against Ali Cloud.
Cool. That's
but
what
we
need.
Need credit, and we may need a CNCF Ali Cloud account.
Yeah, I will give you the account to make it.
It's a complicated process, just to let you know. We can get the PR in, and I can show you how to run full end-to-end, okay? But then we've got to go to CNCF, blah, blah, blah. Ping me. Once we've got the code in, take it as an action item or file an issue, and we can get full end-to-end testing running. That'd be awesome.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I know you guys have a couple users.
Yeah, we currently have a lot of users to request.
That's what I'm saying.
Using Kops on the Ali Cloud. So
that's very cool.
That's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah.
The reason I say to ping me is because I've been doing a lot of work on end-to-end testing. So starting to learn it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
I'm setting his PR to 19, Justin, 4127, and I'm going to mark it as block next.
19?
His VFS PR.
Okay, I can.
That you get in.
Yep.
It's marked as 19, marked as blocks next. I'm going to assign it to you.
Thank you. So, Chris, you have 4 issues, but Rodrigo, you also, you have 3 things next on the agenda, but Rodrigo, you also have a question about life cycles in 110. Chris, do you mind if we go for that one first?
Well, that was about the IAM roles and security groups. Yeah.
So that's answered.
Ish. Yeah.
It's clear as mud.
I mean, I think IAM one is easier. I don't, my concern about security groups is like, it's going to be hard to stop people. Oh, wait a second. So I was going to say, it's going to be hard to stop people sharing a security group across clusters. But maybe we can use tags, and obviously most people would opt out of it, but it would stop the casual mistake.
Let's not go back down that rabbit hole, my friend. We got 15 minutes left.
All right. Okay.
Sorry.
Chris, you want to talk about your issues? Are any of these issues filed?
First things first, etcd2 and quorum. Let's make sure everybody knows about that one. We ran into an issue where Blake upgraded etcd2 or started using Kubernetes 1.9 with etcd2 HA, and it took out the etcd server. IOPS went completely nuts. We have chosen to put in a flag which turns off a new quorum function on the API server. It's under E2E testing now, it's passing, but there's supposed known issues with quorum and etcd. etcd3 performance with quorum is much better. So here's a too long didn't read recap. Any new clusters need to be created with etcd3 in my opinion. We're going to notate that in the release notes. If you're using etcd2, there is a capability of turning on quorum, but we're choosing to release it with quorum off, or else all the etcd H8 clusters are going to go down because IOPS is just going to kill them. So that's interesting. Any questions about that?
And if I remember from the PR correctly, Justin, you actually set it so it's selective, right? So it will only turn off quorum if you're using etcd2. If you're okay.
etcd3 runs great. I've had it in HA testing, so no problems there.
I'm actually running that in production, so.
Huh?
I'm running etcd3 in production, so.
We only, so what was in 1.9, the etcd quorum flag default changed from false to true, and it's only etcd. So on etcd2 single nodes, it doesn't make a difference, but it's actually it doesn't make a behavioral difference, but it's much slower to run with quorum true. So we set that to false, which is correct. I don't think anyone would argue with that. I think I think it's correct. But the complicated case is HA mode for etcd2, where the performance is basically like everything becomes a write. Every read becomes a disk write. So it has a heavy performance cost. So we're effectively keeping the same 1.8 behavior where we have quorum off by default for etcd2 in HA mode for Kops 1.9. And we're going to add IOPS, the ability to specify IOPS if you do want to stay on etcd2. And we're going to make the etcd3 an easier flag, I think, in 1.10. And I think we're going to, well, the plan of record is to get etcd manager going in 1.10. So you will have an easy way to upgrade an existing cluster using etcd2 to include etcd3.
I'm going to massacre the name of the person that just asked about the default for Kops, for defaulting to etcd3. So let me reiterate this, Justin, because this was your choice, and so I've put in the PR to default it on 1.9, but until we're able to migrate users from etcd2 to etcd3 in HA, we've chosen to leave it as etcd2 as a default. But we've had the capability of doing etcd3 in for since 1.7, I think, Kops, or whatever it was, 1.8, 1.7.
1.8.
So we have etcd manager coming in, which will give us the capability to upgrade. Once that functionality is built, and this is really the mitigation plan for this whole quorum thing, is to get everybody onto etcd3, or at least provide that capability. Then we'll switch over to defaulting by etcd3. Does that answer your question?
And we actually have a roadmap with a schedule on it, and it is 1.10. And yet, say in your clusters, while creating clusters, we change etcd version from v2 to v3 1.10 before Kops create. I don't know if you mean before Kops create, but you can currently specify it with a slightly complicated flag, and it'd be nice to make that flag. You can specify the etcd flag, and it'd be nice to make that flag a little simpler. What you can't do is once you've created the cluster, change the version, and that's what etcd manager will do. I'm just going to paste a link to the roadmap, which goes into more detail about this. But
I got 10 minutes, and I got 4 issues.
3, right?
3? I can't count. I'm an engineer, damn it.
3 left.
Sarcasm, guys. Sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen. So validation, we still seem to have a bug. I'm going to punt that. Somebody needs to bug Blake and figure out how he broke it.
Is there an issue at all?
Mm-hmm. It's the same issue. It hasn't been closed. And he commented on it, but it was like at 9:30 at night, so I know he was fried. So
okay. And then the CoreOS issue, yeah, that needs to be fixed. And I think, I suspect that we just don't recognize the new version of CoreOS, but we'll find out. And then
so they sorry to interrupt you, Justin. They seem to have changed the mount paths. I think I think they're using /dev now. But there's a gentleman by the name of Shane. He used to work I used to work with him. He's super sharp. And he could actually fix it in Protocube, or at least give us some guidance. I was hoping that the folks from the UK, Gamble and forget the other, Kashif, or I forget the other gentleman's name, hope they'd comment on it. But what I'm gleaning from the issue is that the mount paths in Protocube have changed. Now let me find that issue and get it on the agenda. It's pretty recent. Justin, I'm really on the fence if, oh, you marked it as blocked next already. All right, so we got to fix this in 1.9?
Yes, if new CoreOS clusters are going to come up or auto upgrade. So the CoreOS currently auto upgrades and we don't turn that off. I would like to make it possible to turn that off, or easy to turn it off. And yeah, if every CoreOS cluster is going to launch and then silently upgrade to a new version that stops working, that's a blocker.
Yeah, agree.
I can't find do you want to paste the issue for the validation? And then, because I still can't find that one. And then, unless it's cluster validation incorrectly passes when only 2 masters are ready.
That is it. Yeah. I'm adding it to the meeting notes.
Okay, thank you. And then the final one on the agenda is a new testing framework that Justin put in.
Can I interrupt since we have 10 minutes, sir? Sorry, I'm being really interrupty today, which I'm not supposed to do. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? Because the testing's cool, but we can table that. We definitely have 3 new faces on the call, or more than new faces. Welcome. So nothing else? All right, cool. Because Shane, this actually relates to you, because it would be awesome to see AliCloud use this same unit testing framework or in the same patterns. So yeah.
This is, yes, so here's what so I think what's interesting is we have a directory called CloudMark. And what it does is it effectively implements like a simulation of the AWS APIs, or at least the bits we need. And it's a bit of a pain to do because obviously, particularly with AWS, the API is pretty big. But what it lets us do is it means that, like, we have a test, for example. So we had a bug where you would run kops create, kops update, and the second kops update would still show a change. It would never clear. And so we have a test now that effectively runs kops create, kops update, but instead of running against real AWS, runs against our mocked out AWS. And what the mocked out AWS basically does is it keeps track of the API objects, but it doesn't actually create any instances or anything like that, or do any real logic. It just says, like, when I create a subnet, okay, you've got a subnet, and when you list the subnets, you get them back. So it tracks basically, it lets us run the code, the real code, without mocking each individual call, and it lets us write tests that are sort of a higher level and actually test sort of more lifecycle-y type things, so multiple repeated operations without really having to do a lot of work other than write the mocks. So it's certainly something to consider if you're looking at like supporting a new cloud, is looking at how much work it would be to mock out effectively the subset of the API that you're using. And I sort of wish we'd done it sooner, because it actually is pretty powerful and shows a lot of issues. So I mean, the return on the investment seems pretty good. To the extent where actually I'm now thinking about whether CloudMock should be split out of Kops so we can use it elsewhere. We can always vendor it in, but that sort of thing. So it's definitely one to look at, Shane and co, if you are implementing a new cloud provider and want to get some. And the
So
other
let me say it a different way. Oh, sorry, I heard a question.
No, I think I was just wittering. Carry on.
So let me say it a different way to make sure that we heard you, Justin. We have complete interfaces for AWS Cloud Provider now, from soup to nuts, pretty much, right? You can do stuff like run a create cluster, update cluster, bump the version of Kubernetes, run another update cluster, so that you can see, like we're able to test stuff like I opened Pandora's box with shared tags, with route tables and NAT gateways. Admittedly, it was kind of busted, in my opinion. But we're able to test that the correct shared flags are being accessed during updates. We've never had the capability of fully disconnecting from the cloud and having complete unit tests run. So it's pretty sweet. I am not getting my head around exactly how you're doing it, Justin. So I'd love to see one of these sessions where you can like say, okay, we're going to implement this and real simple test, and you walk us through it. That would be too cool.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see.
You've got an amazing amount of knowledge floating around in your head. We need to slowly get that out of you.
But yeah, but I mean, it certainly is a. It is a nice. The nice thing about it is you don't need to have. It'll run as a unit test, so you don't need to get the CNCF Ali Cloud account set up, for example, which is nice.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I'd love to see Ali Cloud full ETE test, because
right.
That's a whole nother level of testing. Oh, on that note, plans are to move GCE full ETE into our Kops blocking tests. So not only will we be running an AWS blocking test, but we're going to be running a GCE blocking test whenever we merge code with Kops. So once I can get the test screen. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah. So obviously this test, like, to be clear, this test is not comparable to the E2E test. I mean, it doesn't like test Kubernetes at all. It's a complete fake, right? It's a mock of, it tests Kops. It does not test, like if you do an E2E test with Kops, you're also testing Kubernetes, which is nice. This definitely does not test Kubernetes. It just tests whether Kops like life cycle type things work. And also, we do not have a complete implementation of AWS. We have a sliver of some small subset of calls of some small subset of functionality.
Well, we've got the functionality that we use, right?
Yes.
And that would be the same thing, Shane, that you would implement is whatever calls you have in Ali Cloud, you'd build an interface for that so that you could stub in the interface.
Yes.
We are basically at time. I don't know if anyone else has anything else. Otherwise, we can wish everyone a happy, I don't know if anyone has a holiday weekend, but certainly a weekend, a happy weekend.
Hope everybody has fun stuff planned for the weekend. I do want to thank Justin publicly for all the work he did last weekend. You and I threw in like, I don't know how many PRs, but it was like raining PRs all weekend. So
thank you, Chris, for all your work in reviewing them as well.
Yeah, that's easy. Fixing this stuff is a whole lot easy. Folks, please concentrate on testing 1.9 for us. All the CNI providers, if you have some cycles, let me know, and I'll point you in the right direction. Really excited about Ali Cloud coming in, by the way, team. That is huge, and we're, I can't express how excited that's gonna, and I hope you're ready for the amount of support you get to do, because you guys are gonna have a bunch of users.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.